looked at my husband and I said, okay, this marriage is over and my new life begins now. Hi everyone, Andrea here. I want to share with you the near-death experience that I had December of 1991, almost 30 years ago. The thing about a near-death experience is you remember it as if it happened just moments ago. It's clear, every detail is there, and I admit that was one of the things I worried about when it was over. Would I remember? And another thing that I felt when it was over was that it was so special and so genuinely life-altering for me that I didn't need to share it with anybody. I didn't want to share it and have anybody judge it, criticize it, or diminish it in any way. So I kept it to myself. For about 25, 26 years, I kept it to myself and I told nobody. So this is what happened in a nutshell. I woke up the morning of December. It was the day that we were having the funeral for my grandmother. And just as I was about to wake up that morning, I had a vision. It wasn't a dream, because a dream comes and goes, and unless you really struggle, you forget it. This was a vision, so I remembered every detail. And in this vision, I saw my husband and I walking on a snowy sidewalk, and I saw that there was a car coming down the road. We were on a hill. I saw the color, the make of the car, and then the car hit us. And as I flew through the air, I heard my husband's voice say, "Oh my God, we've been hit by a car." Then I remember the vision was over and I thought, gee, that's kind of weird. How do you get hit by a car when you're walking on a sidewalk? And I forgot about it. We had the day, we had the funeral, and that evening at 10 past 10, as we were leaving our priest's home, we were walking down Côte St. Catherine Road. There were cars parked everywhere, only very, very small little areas open for the driveways, tiny little openings. There was snow, there was a huge storm, and sure enough, at 10 past 10, we walked out of the house, started walking down the sidewalk, and we were hit. And as I flew through the air, the words my husband had said that morning, I heard him say. And so I knew that I was being prepared. I knew that I had been warned, and I basically told myself, Andrea, relax. Whatever this is, it's meant to be. And I didn't tense up. I flew through the air. I hit a parked car, went all the way down Côte St. Catherine Road. And basically then I came out of my body. I came out of my body. My body was completely inert in the middle of the road. And I was about 9 feet above it. I looked down and I said, wait a minute. I kind of know that coat. That looks familiar, but that's not me, because I'm up here. And sure enough, I looked again and I said, wow, that's me. I looked over to the house and chaos was ensuing. It was crazy because there was a big gathering in the house and all the women were coming out and everybody was screaming and yelling, and it was a very chaotic scene. I tried to speak to them. Nobody would hear me. And then I saw the most magnificent light, and I went up towards this light. I was completely drawn towards it. I felt loved, surrounded, completely enveloped in the softest, most luminous ball of light. And then there was a figure in front of me, and he addressed me by name. And this is always the part that freaks me the most, is that he knew my name. I'm like, you know my name? Which of course seems so silly, but that was my reaction. He said, Andrea. I'm like, yup. And then I was asked, do you want to stay or do you want to go back? And I had 3 small children. They were 1, 3, and 5 at the time. And I said, I have to go back. I said, even if every bone in this body is broken, I must go back. I have to take care of my children. And then he asked me again, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I said, I must go back. And then I was thrown into, I can only explain it as a vortex of energy. It was like this crazy spinning top, and I could feel myself. I know it's weird because it wasn't my physical body, but it was like my astral body, and it felt like I had a body. And I had my hands up on the sides and my legs up on the sides, and I knew I had to hold on for dear life, or somehow this thing was going to throw me out into I don't know where. And I held on, and it spin really, really fast, and bang, I slammed back down into my body. And I woke up. I woke up and I started crying. My first thought was, please, Lord, don't let me forget this experience. And as they were putting us into the ambulance, I was in the stretcher with the neck thing and the whole deal, and my husband the same. And I remember saying to myself, wow, something has gone to a lot of trouble to save me and to help me know that my life is worth something. I looked at my husband and I said, okay, this marriage is over and my new life begins now.